Alarms tore through the ship before I even understood what was happening. Red light bathed the corridor, and the floor shook so hard that a crate slid past my feet and slammed into the wall. Somewhere above us, something had struck the hull, and the whole vessel groaned like it might come apart. I was Ethan Barlow, a cargo loader on a freighter called the Iron Drift, and none of this was supposed to be my problem. My job was crates and manifests. But the captain's voice cracked through the intercom with a kind of fear I had never heard from her before. "Anyone with medical training, get to Bay 4, now. We have a passenger dying, and I don't care who you are." I had training. 4 years as a field medic before I decided hauling freight was safer work. My legs moved before my mind caught up, and I ran through shuddering corridors while the ship rocked again and again under fire from something outside that none of us could see yet. Bay 4 used to be a storage room. Now it held a stretcher made of 2 straps and a door, 6 armored guards standing over it with weapons raised, and a woman lying on it whose skin had turned the color of ash. Black lines spread from a wound in her side like cracks running through glass, and they were moving, slowly eating their way toward her heart. "Get back," one of the guards shouted the moment I stepped in, his weapon swinging toward me. "I can help her," I said, raising my hands. "Or I can watch her die from the doorway. Your choice." He hesitated. The ship shook again, dust falling from the ceiling, and somewhere far off I heard the dull thud of another impact against the hull. "Who is firing on us?" I asked. "The ones who did this to her," the guard said, nodding at the wound. "They followed us through the jump. They will not stop until she is gone." I knelt beside her without waiting for permission. Her eyes opened, amber and glassy, and found mine. "You cannot help me," she whispered, her voice carried through a small device clipped to her collar that turned her words into ours a heartbeat later. "Please, save your strength for the fight outside." "I'm not big on giving up," I told her. "Let me look." I pressed 2 fingers to the skin near the wound, the way I would check any burn or break, more habit than plan. That was all it was supposed to be. The room went still in a way that had weight to it. The black lines under my fingers stopped crawling. I thought I had imagined it until the guard closest to me made a sound like a breath he had been holding for a very long time. The corruption at the edge of the wound had frozen in place, and when I looked again, the ash gray of her skin was pulling back, replaced by something closer to living color. "What are you doing to her?" the guard demanded, stepping closer, weapon forgotten at his side. "Nothing," I said, because it was true. I had barely touched her. The princess made a sound that was not pain, it was relief. Slowly, the black lines retreated further, like ink drawn backward through water. Before anyone could ask another question, the ship lurched hard to one side, throwing 2 of the guards off their feet. An alarm I did not recognize began to wail, higher and sharper than the last one. "Boarding pods," the captain's voice announced through the intercom, tight with strain. "They are coming aboard, all hands to defense stations." The guard nearest the door turned to me, torn between the wound closing under my hand and the enemy closing in through the hull. "Stay with her," he said. "Whatever you are doing, do not stop." He ran out with the others, leaving only 1 guard behind, a woman named Kira with sharp eyes and a weapon that looked far too heavy for the room we stood in. "They will cut through the outer wall in minutes," Kira said, watching the door. "You should keep working, whatever this is." I kept my hand where it was, feeling warmth return under my fingers. The princess watched me with something between confusion and hope. "You are not one of ours," she said quietly. "Your kind does not know what it carries." "What do you mean?" "Later," she said, wincing as her body worked through whatever was happening beneath her skin. "If there is a later." A dull clang rang against the wall behind us, followed by another, closer this time. Kira raised her weapon toward the sound. "They are cutting through," she said. 2 decks up, moving fast. I thought about running, about pulling the princess off the stretcher and finding somewhere safer, but her wound was still healing, still fragile, and moving her now could undo everything that had started. I made a choice and stayed exactly where I was. The wall 3 meters away glowed orange, then white, a perfect circle burning through metal. Kira fired twice before the circle finished forming, and something on the other side screamed and fell silent. The circle held, cooling slowly, and no one else came through it right away. "That will not hold them off for long," Kira said, reloading with quick, practiced hands. "We need another way out." "She cannot be moved yet," I said. "Not until the wound closes more." "Then we defend this room," Kira said, and there was no fear in her voice, only calculation. The captain's voice returned over the intercom, strained but steady. "We have sealed 2 boarding points. 1 breach remains near Bay 4. I am sending backup." Footsteps thundered down the corridor outside, and for a moment I thought the enemy had found another way in. Instead, 3 more guards burst through the door, weapons raised, taking positions around the burned circle in the wall. "How is she?" one of them asked, glancing at the princess. "Healing," I said. "I don't know how or why, but it's working." The princess lifted her head slightly, strength returning to her voice. "It is his touch," she said. "Something in him confuses the poison. It no longer knows what to attack." The guards exchanged glances, none of them understanding any better than I did, but there was no time to ask questions. The burned circle in the wall groaned, and a section of metal fell inward with a heavy crash. 2 figures stepped through the gap, wearing armor unlike anything I had seen before, dark and jointed like the shell of an insect. They moved fast, faster than I expected, and the room erupted into motion. Guards fired, the intruders returned fire, and I threw myself over the princess to shield her, feeling the heat of a shot pass close over my shoulder. "Stay down," Kira shouted, stepping in front of us, her weapon steady despite the chaos around her. The fight lasted only seconds, though it felt far longer. One intruder fell, struck by careful, precise fire from the guards. The other retreated back through the gap in the wall, vanishing into the smoke beyond it. "Seal it," the lead guard ordered, and 2 others moved quickly to weld a plate of scavenged metal over the hole. I turned back to the princess, my hand still resting near her wound. The black lines had almost disappeared entirely, replaced by pale, healthy skin. "You saved us," she said, looking at me properly for the first time since the fighting began. Both times. "I didn't do anything special," I said. "I don't even understand what happened." "Then let me explain," she said, her voice growing stronger with every word. "My people are called the Velkari. Our bodies heal quickly, but only in ways we already know. Every cell in us decides early what it will become, and it does not change its mind again. That is our strength, and it is also our weakness." "I don't follow," I admitted. "The blade that struck me carries a poison built for exactly that weakness," she continued. "It convinces a cell to forget what it is, and once forgotten, our bodies cannot remember. The forgetting spreads, faster than we can heal, until nothing is left that remembers how to be alive. That sounds like it should have killed you already." "It should have," she said. "But when you touched me, something in your body refused to forget. Human cells are not so certain of themselves. Somewhere in your blood is a habit of changing, of becoming something new when needed. My physicians will want to study it, but I already know what I felt. Your body gave the poison something to fight that it had never fought before, and it lost." I sat back, trying to understand what she was telling me. It sounded impossible, yet the proof lay healed beneath my hand. "So my touch didn't cure you," I said slowly. "It just gave your own body a chance." "Yes," she said, "and that chance was enough." The ship shuddered again, though softer this time, more like the aftershock of a storm passing, rather than a fresh attack. "Status," the captain called over the intercom, her voice tired but firm. "Enemy retreating," one of the guards responded. They lost more than they expected to gain. A long, uneasy quiet followed, the kind that comes after danger has passed but before anyone quite believes it. I helped the princess sit upright, her strength returning faster than seemed possible, color rising in her cheeks with every passing minute. "They will come back," Kira said, lowering her weapon at last. "Word will spread of what happened here. Enemies of the crown will not accept this quietly, and allies will not stay silent either." "What does that mean for us?" I asked. "It means the galaxy just changed," the princess said simply. "A weapon we believed unbeatable has been beaten, by accident, by a stranger who barely understood what he was doing. That is not a secret that stays small." I thought about the captain, about the crew, about the freighter that had never asked to be part of anything larger than hauling crates from one dull port to another. "I didn't ask for any of this," I said. "Neither did I," the princess replied, almost smiling. "And yet here we are." Over the following days, her recovery continued at a pace that startled even her own physicians when they finally arrived aboard a support vessel that met us at the edge of a quiet system. They examined her wound, then examined me, drawing small samples of blood with careful, curious hands, murmuring to each other in words the translator did not bother to catch. "They wish to understand what you carry," the princess explained one evening, as we sat together in the mess hall while the ship drifted quietly between destinations. "Not to take it from you, but to learn from it, perhaps to help others like me." "How many others are there?" I asked. "More than you would think," she said, her voice growing quiet. "The blade that struck me is not rare among our enemies. It has taken people I loved, people I could not save no matter how many physicians tried. And now? Now there is hope," she said. "Small, strange, unexpected hope, but hope all the same." I thought about that word for a long time after she said it. Hope had never been part of my job description. I loaded crates. I checked manifests. I kept my head down and avoided anything that looked like trouble, because trouble rarely paid well and often cost more than it gave back. Yet here I was, sitting across from a princess who had nearly died in front of me, watching her grow stronger by the hour because of something in my blood I had never known existed. "You should know," she said carefully, "that some will not be pleased by what happened. There are those among my people who see humans as simple, as lesser, as tools to use and discard. What you did challenges that belief in ways they will not enjoy." "I'm not trying to challenge anyone," I said. "I just wanted to help." "I know," she said. "That is exactly why it matters so much." 3 days later, the support vessel's physicians requested a meeting with the captain, myself, and the princess together. We gathered in a room far grander than anything on the Iron Drift, polished metal walls reflecting soft light, a long table where officials from her homeworld waited with expressions I could not quite read. "We have studied the readings from your blood," the lead physician said, addressing me directly. "What we found confirms what the princess suspected. Your body does not commit to a single path the way ours does. It remains flexible, ready to change, even in cells that should have long ago decided what they are." "Is that dangerous?" the captain asked, protective in a way that reminded me she had once trusted me with far less than this. "Not to him," the physician said, "but it means his kind carries something our medicine has never encountered. A resistance built entirely from uncertainty, from cells that refuse to fully commit. It should not work against our weapons, and yet it does." "What happens now?" I asked. "Now we ask for your permission," the princess said, stepping forward, "to share this discovery, carefully and slowly, with physicians who can turn it into something that saves lives beyond mine. Not to use you, not to take from you without asking, only to learn, if you are willing." I thought about refusing. Part of me wanted nothing more than to return to the Iron Drift, to crates and manifests and the quiet, unremarkable life I had built for myself. But I thought too of the black lines spreading across her skin, of how close she had come to disappearing entirely, and of how many others like her might be waiting somewhere, for a chance that had never existed before now. "You can study it," I said, "as long as no one is forced into anything, and as long as it helps people instead of hurting them." "That is exactly what we intend," the physician said, relief clear in her voice. Before any of that could happen, though, there was one more test we did not expect. 2 days after the support vessel arrived, a smaller craft approached the Iron Drift without announcing itself, ignoring every hail the captain sent. Kira was the first to notice it on the scanners, her voice sharp with warning. "That is not one of ours," she said, studying the readout, "and it is not moving like a trader or a scout. It is moving like something built to strike fast and vanish before anyone can respond." The captain ordered the ship to full alert, and within minutes every crew member who could hold a weapon was stationed somewhere along the hull, watching narrow viewports for any sign of what was coming. I stayed near the princess, who insisted on standing despite Kira's protests, her wound now closed but her strength still not fully returned. "They will try again," the princess said quietly, watching the small craft grow larger on the display. "Whoever sent the first attackers will not accept failure easily. If I am gone, the discovery your blood carries dies with me before it can spread. Then we don't let them succeed," I said, though I had no idea how any of us would manage that against a craft clearly built for exactly this kind of attack. The unknown ship fired once, a warning shot that scraped harmlessly along our shields, then opened a channel instead of continuing the assault. A voice came through, cold and formal, demanding that the princess be surrendered in exchange for the safety of the crew. "They believe we will simply hand her over," the captain said, disbelief plain in her voice. "Tell them no," the princess said, before anyone else could answer. "Tell them the Iron Drift does not surrender its passengers." The captain repeated those words exactly, and the channel went silent. For a long, tense moment, nothing happened at all, the small craft holding its position as though deciding what to do next. Then it turned, engines flaring, and retreated back into the dark without firing again. "They wanted to test our resolve," Kira said, lowering her weapon at last. "Now they know it will not break easily." "It will not stop them from trying again," the princess warned. "But it may make them think twice about how." The crew returned to their stations slowly, tension draining out of the ship in stages rather than all at once, the way it always does after danger passes without quite disappearing. I found myself standing beside the princess long after the others had gone, both of us watching the empty space where the enemy craft had been. "You did not have to say no on my behalf," she said eventually. "Your captain could have chosen differently." "She didn't though," I said. "None of us wanted to." "That is something I will remember," she said, Long after this discovery becomes ordinary science instead of something new and frightening. The following weeks passed in a strange mixture of ordinary work and extraordinary attention. I returned to loading crates aboard the Iron Drift, though now with 2 Valkyrie guards stationed quietly nearby, a precaution the princess insisted on despite my objections. Word of what had happened spread exactly as she predicted, carried across trade routes and diplomatic channels until it reached ears far beyond our small corner of space. Some reacted with suspicion, questioning whether a single accident aboard a freighter could truly hold answers to a weapon that had haunted the Valkyrie for generations. Others reacted with something closer to fear, worried about what it meant that a species so young and so disorganized carried an answer their own ancient science had missed entirely. But slowly, carefully, physicians began to test what they had learned, first in small trials, then in wider ones, refining what my blood had shown almost by accident, into something that could be given deliberately to those who needed it. It was not fast. It was not simple, but it was real, and it was working. The princess visited the Iron Drift one final time before returning to her homeworld, standing at the loading bay where crates still needed stacking, and manifests still needed checking. "You changed something today that will outlast both of us," she said, watching the ship's crew move around her without any of the fear that had once surrounded her arrival. "I just wanted to help," I said again, because it still felt true, even now. "That is the strangest part of all this," she said, smiling in a way I had come to recognize as rare for her. "You did not set out to change anything. You simply refused to walk away from someone who needed you. Perhaps that is the real difference between your people and mine. We plan for centuries. You act in the moment it matters most." I did not have a clever answer for that, so I said nothing, and she seemed to understand that silence was answer enough. She left not long after, her ship pulling away from the Iron Drift and disappearing into the dark, carrying with it samples, notes, and a discovery that would ripple far beyond the small freighter where it began. I went back to my crates, back to my manifests, back to the quiet, ordinary rhythm of a life I had once thought had no room in it for anything larger than itself. But every so often, I would catch sight of my own hands and think about what they carried without my ever knowing, a small, stubborn refusal buried deep in cells too disorganized to fully give up, waiting patiently for the moment it would matter most. It had taken a princess, a poisoned blade, and a stranger too tired to know better than to try, and somewhere out among the stars, because of that single moment, someone else was still breathing who might otherwise have been lost. That, I decided, was worth every bit of trouble it brought with it.